All right, well, thank you for the introduction. Hope everyone's having a good day. Started off good, I think, with the USA win in soccer. I don't know if you're a USA soccer fan, so that's good. I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about some of the opportunities that we've had with our customers to help build out successful cloud detection response programs, some of the outcomes we've helped drive, and yeah. So first piece, and this is based on a Gartner metric, where over the next 4 years, 85% of organizations will be cloud first. This isn't just having instances in the cloud, but this will be a cloud first strategy for how you build out, deploy your infrastructure, your applications. I think a lot of organizations are at different maturity levels and come from different perspectives on their cloud journey. Some are cloud native, built in the cloud. Others, that have been around have on-prem traditional infrastructure and are migrating workloads and applications to the cloud. But one of the key things here is there's kind of a big difference between being cloud, having the goal of being cloud first and then being able to execute on that strategy, right? Kind of two different things. It's really difficult. Some of the challenges that come up, that diversify with the cloud environment. First off, unseen areas. As you're building out in the cloud, you've kind of democratized a lot of the setup of the infrastructure, networking. And so you made it, and AWS has built so many great services, it has made it easy to deploy out, build new applications, spin up new accounts. And it can be easy to kind of miss some areas or not get visibility into a new account that's spun up or resources that are spun up. Also leads into, what happens when you democratize essentially the ability to deploy and configure this infrastructure. It can allow for some misconfigurations, right? Misconfigurations still remain one of the leading causes of cloud breaches. When you enable everyone in the organization, right, or not everyone, but every developer, DevOps teams to configure the network, what's publicly accessible, the encryption. These are one of the key challenges that you have to ensure that balance between centralization and decentralization needed to build an innovative culture within your organization. So being able to get visibility and to define policies to prevent misconfigurations. I talk about the increased noise. With ephemeral infrastructure, you've got a lot more things happening. It might have been in the past, might have been one server, but now you've got hundreds of servers being spun up, spun down all the time. In the lifetime of an application over the course of the year, could be thousands to tens of thousands of instances just to support that particular application. So, the spinning up and spinning down of this infrastructure can create and configuration changes that are made, new identity policies attached to resources. It creates a lot of events. There's a lot going on in this infrastructure, and this can be an increase in noise if you don't have the good context, understanding, this is my production environment. These are critical instances. This belongs to this application. Getting that context with all of the information that's out there, all the different services, all of the flexibility that you have and the power that you have in building in AWS. Well, it's incredible for building these applications and serving your customers. But it also comes this complexity and challenge of how do I build out my applications and enforce certain policies when I'm also acting in a decentralized way. One of the major keys as we talk through these four challenges, context-driven cloud security, right? Being able to piece together, disparate pieces of information to understand, hey, again, production resource running a critical application. It belongs to this application, this business unit. That those changes were deployed by this particular developer. Being able to piece together these different pieces of information to really understand, one, what is the potential risk that I have here? When a detection comes in, what is the context I need to know? Is this, I see the ARN or the user that made the configuration change, they're based in Poland. Well, as an example, we don't have any Polish developers on the team or anyone in Poland on the team. Maybe we have some, we're dealing with an agency so being able to piece together that type of information to understand, is this a change that was meant to be made? Is this something that a mistake being made? All of piecing together that information is really what's going to help you understand, is this something that I need to react to immediately? Is this something I expected? Is this part of testing? So one of the key thing of not just creating lists and lists of issues to look at, or list of different metadata to look at, but piecing together those disparate pieces of information to tell a good story and understand what exactly is happening in that environment. So as we talk through these four different challenges that can happen as you're building out your detection and response program, first thing is visibility. Saying goes, you can't secure what you don't see, right? First thing is, how do we get real-time, kind of frictionless visibility into my cloud environment? We said as we spin up and auto-onboard new accounts, off-board new accounts, there's different, organizations have different strategies for how they deal with accounts. Some will do, an account per service, per team. Others will use a shared account across different teams. But bottom line, you have a lot of accounts being, potentially you have a lot of accounts being spun up. You can have a lot of resources within those accounts being spun up. So getting that visibility and doing it in a way that doesn't cause a lot of overhead, right? As mentioned, you're able to get quick visibility into any new account, any new resource as it's spun up, and also the visibility as it's spun down, it removes from your list, right? You're not having this cumulative list of all the resources that were ever built up. That's just going to be a noise again for you. And then the big piece too we talk about is real time. I think that's one of the key points. There's a lot, very easy within AWS to do describe calls and pull snapshots of information, on an hourly, daily basis. But to use this analogy in say physical security, pictures are really good for doing an investigation, right? You look at a picture, you're like, okay, this is what happened at this particular point in time. But monitoring your infrastructure and monitoring your environment, just like it'd be monitoring a physical location, you want a video stream, right? You want real-time visibility into what is happening. You want to be able to connect those events with, the origination, with the purpose. And so it's not just frictionless, but having that real-time visibility is really key in understanding, what are some of the risky actions that are being taken. Second, so we talked about, as you're spinning up a lot of infrastructure, and you have this infrastructure being modified consistently, one of the key ways to drive down that noise is to identify misconfigurations further up in the CI/CD development cycle. So this is where analyzing infrastructure templates, ensuring that infrastructure that doesn't adhere to your policies, that creates risky misconfigurations, be able to detect that. One, if you can limit the amount of misconfigurations in your infrastructure, it's going to limit the amount of detection noise that you have as well, right? You've just got a better hygiene overall in your infrastructure, and you're going to have less to worry about. The other piece is when you move this further in your CI/CD life cycle, your developers are going to learn what are risky misconfigurations, right? So you're kind of going to fix at the source that, okay, creating databases, without encryption is not something we want in our organization, right? You can respond to that over and over again, or start to educate the developers and the DevOps team that that's a policy you want enforced. So third, talk about is actually detecting the suspicious behavior, right? So we got real-time visibility. We've minimized, the amount of misconfigurations in the environment, which should lead to, less suspicious behavior that is possible. But some of the key things here, right, are things like, an administrative IAM role attached to a resource, a bucket or snapshot exposed to the public, a login from a country where you don't normally have login activity, being able to identify what are suspicious behaviors and be able to configure and tune the suspicious detections for your environment, understanding that, hey, these type of events in my production accounts, these are things that I want to prevent. These types of this type of behavior or activity in a QA or development account might be acceptable. So being able to tune your detections based on the business context and where these detections are happening is another really key area. Lastly, we'll talk about kind of efficiency, unlock efficiency and scale through automated response. So one of the major keys and one of the bigger successes we see with customers, when you have all this infrastructure being spun up, right? You've got a large cloud environment that you have built out, right? And again, back the benefit of the cloud, technical efficiency, scale, cost, really helps improve for a lot of organizations their basically development efficiency. We'll also need it to kind of parallel that is your response. If you're getting hundreds of events or hundreds of actions, thousands of actions, being able to deal with these in a manual way is just not going to scale. So being able to have kind of native automation that can, one, say, spin down a resource, confirm if, say, a suspicious event or suspicious behavior was detected, identifying who was the user that made that, and then even sending, say, a Slack notification or some kind of notification. Was this on purpose? Was this something you meant to do? Or was this something that you made was an accident? So being able to automate and route the responses to, say, suspicious events within your environment, highly key to maintaining and being up to par with all that activity. One of the other areas is in driving a successful kind of automation program is being able to provide and input that important business context within your environment. AWS gives us this very powerful metadata layer, right? Their tagging capability. Leveraging tags, you can help route for essentially the business unit. What is the business unit that owns this resource? What is the application that this this particular resource belongs to? You can use tags to even define the repo, the source code repository for where either the Terraform that defines this resource or the application that's running on top of that. You can leverage tags for that information as well. So being able to enforce a tagging kind of a tagging paradigm on the infrastructure, super important for being able to run a successful automation, because if you can rely 100% on, say, an owner tag, a business unit tag, application tag as being there 100% of the time, you can leverage that key metadata for routing kind of response to some of these detections. So overall, I want to talk through a little bit with Rapid7. We have our cloud security offering of Insight CloudSec, but across Rapid7, we have a number of top-tier products in vulnerability management, application security, cloud security, and also detection response and threat intelligence. At Rapid7, we kind of piece together our top-tier products in research and engineering. We give a lot back into the open source community and security research as well. We bring a lot of the kind of security findings and security community that we are a part of, bring that as intelligence into the products. And with our broader suite of products, we provide a very flexible kind of both best of breed consolidation opportunity within for your security needs. And I think I would like to just say thank you for everyone for your time today, and appreciate it.